Who do you think is the greater badass, Zaraki Kenpachi or Roronoa Zoro? So I kind of had this idea because they're two of the greatest badasses I know, and I wanted to see what you guys think. Which one do you guys think is the greater badass? Now, here's the thing. Both of them have done some crazy stuff. Both of them have done some very badass stuff and some reckless stuff all at the same time. Zoro, one of the things that I say the most badass things, at the same time, it's badass but also very sincere and a good friend for what he did, was when he took all of Luffy's pain at once by Kuma. And to me, that was one of probably the most badass things you could do, because not only was it badass in the sense of holy crap, you know, he just took a day's worth of beatings in 1 second, but also he did it for a friend. And to me, that's badass, because a lot of people don't know, but badass is subjective to, you know, what you're talking about. Anybody could think anything is badass. I could think right now that this cup is badass. So, you know, as far as badass goes, it's definitely subjective. But to me, that is definitely badass and one of the most badass things Zoro's done. But he's also done a bunch of other stuff. You know, he cuts people down. He doesn't care. He jumps into battle. And that's really what makes Zoro a badass for me, is that he doesn't care. He will jump into battle. And, you know, even listening to his captain, though, that's the thing, like, to me, he's a badass, but he's also loyal. And all around that makes Zoro an awesome character for me personally. Now, Zaraki, one of the things I love about Zaraki is that he does not care either, but even more so than Zoro. He's just like a glutton for punishment, but not really punishment because he never really gets his butt whipped too much, but with Zaraki, he just, like, loves battle, and for me, that's really the most badass thing about him in general. Like, of course, he's done many different things that is awesome. You know, his fight with Ichigo in Soul Society was an amazing fight. Probably shouldn't have lost, but that's a whole different discussion. And, you know, him loving battle and constantly jumping in, not for, oh, I need to win for this, I need to do this, just because he loves battle. Like, he loves to fight. And that's really what makes Zaraki a badass, in my opinion. Only thing that's ever stopped Zaraki from becoming, like, one of the greatest, most fan favorites of all time is definitely probably Kubo himself. Because Kubo never really, like, gave Zaraki, I feel, that moment up until recently, where hopefully we're going to see some crazy stuff with Zaraki. But I say that Zaraki, thing that stopped him from becoming, like, you know, a huge fan favorite, and he is a fan favorite, people love him, he's one of people's favorite characters in Bleach, but I say it's definitely Kubo not giving him that time to shine, because of the simple fact that, in my opinion, Zaraki has the potential to be one of the strongest Shinigami in all of Soul Society if he knew his Bankai's name and he went Bankai. Think about that. If he went Bankai, he could potentially surpass everyone. And that's the thing that, like, if Kubo would have went that step further and showed that, which he might show in the future, we still don't know, then I would say Zaraki is, like, would be the greatest of all time. Either way, they're both really badass characters. I love everything about them. Their personalities, their I don't give a crap personalities, all of that mixed together, really just their thirst for battle at the same time. I say Zaraki's thirst is definitely higher. He doesn't care whatever battle it is, include him in it so that he can have some fun. And that's one of the things, like, they both have their ups and downs. Like, I say Zoro, when he goes into battle, I think he's a little bit more prepared than Zaraki. He just jumps in just because he wants to go crazy. Like, for example, in the Fullbring arc, had Zaraki went up against Tsukishima, he would have been finished, because he doesn't have the strategy that he needs all the time. But that's not necessarily in the whole badass case. I think just badass in general is just their personalities and the way they handle things and the way they do things. I say in certain cases, Zaraki, like, his thirst is higher than Zoro's, but then Zoro, when he does stuff, is just really epic, because Oda always pushes Zoro to become, you know, much more than what he was previously, and he doesn't hold him back just because he's not the main character, which is something that Kubo kind of does, because at the end of the day, he wants to make sure Ichigo gets the glory. So Zaraki's just been held back from that. So in that case, I'd say that Zoro's the greater badass, only because of that reason, that Zaraki's never really had his true moment where, like, you know, not that he saved Soul Society or anything, because even Luffy's always the one at the end of the day that's going to stop everything as well in One Piece. But I just think that Zoro's had more of a moment to shine, and more, he's always been pushed to where we know he can go, and Zaraki's never really had that opportunity. I'm hoping we can see that soon with Zaraki, because there's a lot of opportunity for that. But I say both of them would be equal if Zaraki would get what he deserves as far as, you know, character-wise, and just getting the right moment that he needs in order for me to feel like, wow. Because I already know Zaraki's a badass, but Kubo's never put him in the space to feel like, oh man, this is like the greatest character I've ever seen. And that's really what I feel makes Zaraki lack in that department, which I would probably say that Zoro is the greater badass for that reason only. Character-wise, I know that both of them are badass. It's just that Zaraki never had the true opportunity. Of course, he's had incredible battles. That's not saying that, you know, I'm not taking away any of his awesome battles, but when he does things, it's awesome. I wish he would just get more. Like, I loved, and for example, even the Fullbring arc, one of the best moments in there is when, in 2 seconds, despite his over Gideko, he just slices him in half. He's like, that's it, I'm bored. You know, so stuff like that just really makes Zaraki awesome. Either way, both amazing characters. Just because I put Zoro a little badass because of the way Oda writes him doesn't make Zaraki any less badass. They're both amazing characters. They've done some very badass things. But, you know, this is just my take on it. What do you guys think? Who do you think is a more badass character? I know a lot of you requested that I include Zaraki with Zoro because they're both fan favorites. So I want to know what you guys think. Is it Zaraki? Is it Zoro? Are they equal? Let me know why, you know, your overall thoughts of this whole crazy thing. Because for being not the main characters, like, this is a time separation as well. Because had this been like the 80s, they probably would have been the main characters of the series because that's how things used to run back in those days. They would just have a really badass character like, you know, Fist of the North Star, Berserk just got this badass and he's the main character. But nowadays what's shown is like you gotta have the wacky, more relatable character as the main character. Again, either way, let me know what you think. Comment section below, video response all around. Who's the greater badass, Zoro or Zaraki? But that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Thumbs up for both of these badasses because they do some badass things on ForneverWorld. And as always, people, have an awesome day.